Evening, folks. It's your man Donald King out here doing his thing. A lot going on these days. But it doesn't stop, does it? I go until I can go no further. So I get it done. Anywho, yeah, man, we're just gonna ride this till the wheels fall off. Hopefully, I'll have reached as many people as I can before my time in this body is up, but we'll see. Anyway, hopefully y'all are doing well tonight. Hopefully the evening is finding you well. You know, I hate the news. I hate the news because it's designed to appeal to ideologues, right? An ideologue is an aggressor parasite. It's a drone. It's basically a shell of a human being. A life form that doesn't process information and reality through its own mind and who instead looks to the beliefs and groups and representations of power and authority and feelings and identity features and markers. They want everything but their own minds to process information and reality for them. They want everything but their brain to do the thinking for them. Right? The reason why I hate the news is because, again, it's not designed for thinking people. It's designed for people who believe things, not people who do independent research or investigation, things of this nature. Right? Most recently, they had this whole debacle with this little boy who took up an assault rifle, went into a riot zone, ended up killing 2 people and seriously injuring another. Now, in idealism, you could argue back and forth whether or not he was right or wrong. You know, they show the video footage and he did seem to be under attack, at least from the footage I saw. He did seem to be under attack, but he was also there unprovoked. There was nothing there that made him go there with an instrument of death. It's a choice that he made on his own. And the reason why I mention these things is because at an ideal level, you can argue it either way. If you're an ideologue belonging to the left or to the right, if you're on the left, then he's evil and he deserves to be punished. If you're on the right, then he was just defending himself. And then see, that's an idealism. In reality, a person who had rage nurtured within them in their home environment and within their community, took an instrument of death into a place he had no business being in. He was there to transfer his rage into someone. He was there to transfer his rage into someone either through direct assault or through intimidation. The point of him being there was to release his rage and frustrations into others. What's most tragic about this incident isn't just the lives that were lost. I would say that the most tragic thing is the fact that he's being lauded as a hero by ideologues on the right. He's going to learn that his actions and behaviors were warranted. And as such, he will never have an honest moment with himself. He will never come to terms with what he did, which makes it impossible for him to square up with reality. You see, When you're an ideologue, you can't think above the level of competition. You can't think above the level of the game. When you're an ideologue, you can't think above the level of the game. All you want to do is compete. This man made a material impact on reality, a system he necessarily has to answer to. He made a material impact because he was motivated by corrupt groups of people around him telling him that he was the law, he was the judge and jury, and that he was a righteous judge. He's a righteous judge for the good guys, right? This little boy, trained into thinking, he's a righteous judge. The allegory of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. When they partook of the tree of knowledge, what did the devil say? From the moment you eat the fruit, your eyes will be open. You will be as God, knowing good from bad, right from wrong. In the allegory, this tree of knowledge, it represents pride. Assuming you are the righteous judge, assuming you are not just fit to, but authorized to end life according to your inner sense of justice, to take according to your inner sense of justice. A little boy took 2 lives, injured another person, and lost his life in reality. Like from beyond the mortal coil, he's screwed. Because goddamn ideologues don't know how to stop competing long enough to assess what they're doing, the impact that they're having, and adjust. Ideologues only know how to compete. They only know how to compete. That's what an aggressor parasite is, isn't it? Any virion, or whatever you call it, that is invasive to a host, what does it do? It goes in wrecking shop, competing against the body, competing against the body's building blocks, and then once it propagates, competing against its own progeny, trying to win, trying to capture the most, trying to take the most for itself. Virion compete until they hit a point of self-termination. And that's effectively what's become of this young man. He just backed himself into a circumstance there's no way out of. Not unless he really does a lot of work to offset the negative impacts he's made on reality. Now, you see, if you're an ideologue on the right, you think your consensus is what makes him right or wrong, good or bad. That's the stupid thing about this species. You all think that your consensus makes reality, and it simply does not. What you agree to has no bearing on reality. If you call him guilty or not guilty, it has no bearing on the fact that he took an instrument of death to someplace he didn't need to be with the intention of transferring his rage into someone, either through intimidation or through direct violence. And the worst part about it is, the people who helped him get off, all of them have to shoulder some of the negative impact that he made on reality. all the people who came to his defense, all the people who helped create a circumstance in which a major imbalance has been created in the world. The way reality works as a system is, these are all ripple effects. This dude doing this thing, it didn't just fall onto the shoulders of him. It fell onto the shoulders of every single person involved. Not just on the right, but on the left. His parents, everyone involved. Because he stole from reality. He stole potential from reality. It goes all the way up the chain, all the way to the ones who orchestrated the social circumstances for this to be the case. And they have to, like, for all the shit that has come to pass, they have to bear the brunt of it all. Like, dude, if you knew how bad that shit is, it's horrific. It's horrific. And it only gets worse by the second, because there's no limit to the amount of damage reality will inflict in order to, one, offset negative, to take potential back in order to offset negative impacts that have been made on it as a system, and two, how deep it's willing to push you into the distortion in order to make sure that corruption is completely purged from you. Like, dude, this is all mechanical. This is all mechanical. What you think is right and wrong, especially in terms of human morality, is immaterial. Immaterial to how reality works as a system. Ash Bro comes in. Hey bro, when we create imbalance in the world or others, is it accumulative each time? And is there a point that it eventually maxes out? No, there's no point in which it maxes out. Like, when you make negative impacts on reality, I want you to understand it like this. All right, so everything works sort of in a ripple effect. Like, so let's say you murder someone. Let's say you murder someone. All right. You murder them. The hardship that you place on their family that causes their children to grow up and delve deeper into a life of crime. The crimes, at least portions of those crimes that trace back to this thing that you did, this action you took against a person in reality, they get sourced back to you. And then the people who like are affected by the crimes that they commit, and they go on to become criminals themselves, portions of that get sourced back to you. You get it's a ripple effect, and reality is a perfect accountant. Every single thing you do that isn't in service to balance, every single thing you do, and not service in service to balance according to agreements humans make with themselves or each other, in service to balance of reality as a system, everything you do that isn't in service to balance, it gets charged back to you. Everything you affect that isn't in service to balance, it gets charged back to you. And look at this. So think about it like this. This all happens on the body of this planet, but this planet is just a structural building block belonging to a higher life form. If what you've done creates a negative impact at a cellular level that sort of moves things out of place within the larger body, this planet is just a cellular building block belonging to, then part of that gets charged back to you too. Which is why I spend so much time trying to explain this stuff to people. It doesn't begin and end with the agreements people make with themselves. Look at all these ignorant assholes patting themselves on the back because A little boy got away with murder. And granted, I've seen the images, and the guys were coming to him, and they are at fault as well. Because they went over there with the intention to transfer rage into things. Maybe they were unarmed, or at least two of them were purportedly were unarmed, and purportedly the other one may have had something on them. But the idea is they engaged him with the intention of transferring rage into him. And that's what happens most times in these. Whenever there's a clash of ideologies or of ideologues, it's always just this battle to transfer rage into others. Yeah, I'm gonna transfer my rage into you. I'm gonna release all this negative pent-up energy into you. That's the whole reason he went there. That's the whole reason why all these people who are these people didn't even have shit to do with the protest. They were there just because they wanted to fight. They were there just because they wanted to be riled up and use what was happening as an excuse to vent their own rage. They weren't there to solve problems. They were there to vent rage. That's what happens in a lot of settings where you have peaceful protests, and it's always some ignorant jackass trying to wild out and trying to start a fight. They're not there to solve the problem. They don't give a shit about the problem. They just want to release their rage into somebody, and this is it's a perfect cover to do it. In idealism, you can argue till you're blue in the face of whether or not he was right or wrong, guilty or not guilty. Those are human laws. Those are human rules. Reality doesn't give a fuck about human rules. It doesn't give a shit about the systems of agreements you guys come up with. When you carry rage within you and you make it your business, your desire, your aim, your goal to transfer rage into others instead of neutralizing that shit within, you're an active agent of corruption. And you can think about that in the literal sense, like a rapist, pedophile, a racist. Hey, I want to use you as something to release my rage into. That's what racists fight for. That's what racists fight for. They fight to keep people in groups of people in subdued positions in society so that they have the right to unilaterally transfer their rage into people. Every racist. I don't want them to be equal to me because I want to have the right to transfer my rage into them. If I am socially superior to them, I'm allowed to use them as a thing to release my rage into. Think about this country, just the United States of America. Think about how sick and disgusting its history is. People like generationally trended into bullying groups of people they outnumber 5-1, 7-1. They're taught that they're heroes for being bullies and for holding the line. Holding the line, what line are they holding? Social dominance. Why? Because the dominant groups are theoretically entitled to release their rage and frustrations into those beneath them. We're protected. We're fighting for our rights. Fighting for your right to release your rage into somebody who's not allowed to fight you back. Fucking cowardly. I'm actually writing a piece on this right now. But that's how it works at a mechanical level. That's how it works at a mechanical level. This boy, instead of dealing with whatever made him full of rage to begin with, instead of facing and confronting it, or turning to and getting the people who filled him with rage to face and confront whatever filled them with rage so that they could stop releasing it into him, what did he do? He went out and used other people as instruments to transfer his rage into. There's nothing heroic about it. There's nothing patriotic about it. It's cowardly. And just to put it in the proper context for you, imagine this. A man. No, I don't want to use that example. You know what? I'm going to skip that because that could have, it would have been on point, but it would have gotten really dark. But you don't get the opportunity to go around nurturing rage within yourself and then think that you're entitled to and that it's your right to release it in others. You don't. Let me see. Ashbro writes, you mentioned releasing rage, but the entitlement could be more than that, no? Like to steal or lie or cheat, etc. Put them actually, to tell you the truth, yeah, that they're all sort of intertwined. So they're all sort of intertwined. When you are releasing your rage into someone, okay, so think about it like this. If you are stealing from someone, you are in essence releasing rage into them. You could ask them, you could consult them for what it is that you want for them. You could request it from them. You could allow them to give it to you. But when you take upon yourself the authority to take from them, you are in essence releasing rage towards them. It's all different versions of the same thing. That's what makes parasitism what it is. It is the intent to release rage into things and to steal and capture and do everything in the name of self-interest and self-benefit. It is the essence of corruption. So, again, the point of talking about this young man, is because he demonstrates a fundamental principle of reality, at least with respect to how reality sort of works with humans. Your agreements mean nothing. Your agreements mean nothing. A jury said that he was not guilty. And he got off without having to face social consequences. In reality, he's racked up more debt than he could possibly hope to pay back. And I mean, at this point in his life, he might as well just give himself directly to balance and do everything in his power to offset the negative impacts that he's made. Because again, look at this. And I want to say this very directly. Humans do not have the right to tell you you can kill. I know that you all are of the impression that the rules you make up decide who's allowed to kill and who isn't. But you are not allowed. No human can grant you permission to take life. The only time you're allowed to take life in reality is for food. And then it's like, and not for sport. Humans kill for entertainment. Kyle was playing a fucking game in his mind. Humans kill for entertainment. You guys come up with these arbitrary rules. Oh yeah, we're allowed to kill because this. Oh yeah, we're allowed to kill because that. No. No. No, you're not. Oh, the authorities said that I'm allowed to kill and I'm doing good. I'm in the name of the law. No, the fuck you're not. You're racking up debts to reality. I'm keeping the peace. No, you're not. You guys literally think you're allowed to murder because you're startled? You're allowed to end life because you're scared or you're startled. You carry these instruments of death with you. Someone startles you and then you feel entitled to take their life based on systems of agreements humans came up with and called laws? Are you fucking serious? You think you're allowed to end life just because someone said you're allowed to? Again, it goes back to that allegory of Adam and Eve in the garden. God says, don't eat from this tree. The snake said, I'm allowed to. Who told you you're allowed to eat from the tree? If I'm running all of this, and I didn't tell you you're allowed to do that, but something over here that isn't me said that you can, you're going to listen to it over me? Update it. You're going to listen to your pride. You're going to listen to men. You're going to listen to humans tell you that you're allowed to end life because they said so. You're going to listen to humans tell you that you're allowed to end life because they said so. Again, an ideologue is the person who listens to people over reality. They side with people over reality. They listen to authority. They listen to their pride. They listen to their groups. They listen to everything other than their God-given brain. It'll get you in trouble, man. Pride will get you in trouble. Listening to people will get you messed up every time. And unfortunately for this little boy, he's gotten suckered into listening to people over reality. He treated it like it's a game. And again, dumbass ideologues can't do anything but compete. They compete to self-termination. Whenever you want to control groups of people, what do? Turn everything into a contest. Why? Because competition makes people dumb. They're addicted to it. They're addicted to imposing their will on others. They're addicted to forcing others to recognize and bend to their authority. They're addicted to feeling as though they hold power and dominion over others. Again, competition, narcissism, and aggression. They're triune. They're triune. They're inextricably bound. And when combined, they form greed, which is the parasitic outlook and mindset. Look at everybody who's on the right now. The only thing they want is a power grab. So what? So they can force their will on others and take the most for themselves. Greedy, ignorant, vile parasites. Reality's had enough. And this little boy got dragged into through his socialization process, through his culture, through his community. He got dragged into this shit. And more than likely, just based on what he's surrounded by and the notion that people are reflecting this bullshit narrative back to him in which he's a hero, he'll likely never do what he has to in order to start squaring away some of that debt to reality. Again, reality is brutal. All you guys think you're getting in heaven. Shit, no. No, you're not. Bad things await. That's why Jesus said, and you shall know them by their fruits. When you're in service to corruption, of course you're greedy. Of course you're competitive. Of course you're narcissistic. Of course you're tribal and proud. You're an aggressor parasite. Who do aggressor parasites listen to? People who tell them that they're good and that they're right and that they deserve the most or to consume more than others. You shall know them by their fruits. A good tree doesn't bear corrupt fruits, and corrupt trees cannot bear good fruit. And these cultures, these mythologies, anything that an ideologue blindly believes in and worships and prostrates themselves before is an extension of corruption. Worshipped yourselves right into oblivion, and it's bad, I tell you. It's going to be bad. Yeah. This is not a game, people. It's not a joke. I'm not some crazy guy just rambling off a bunch of theories and ideas. I'm not trying to fearmonger you into changing your ways or even examining them. My whole point, the whole point of me being what I am and doing what I do, is to simply translate principles into the English language. It's not to try and convince you of anything. It's certainly not to include your feelings and beliefs in anything that I'm saying or that I see. It is simply to explain to you the mechanism of the system. Whether or not you choose to understand the mechanism of the system, or whether or not you choose to make everything about your pride and defending your identity, that's completely on you. But how this is going to go down is how this is going to go down. And the more you've done to damage reality and delay reality is the worse things are going to be for you. That I promise. And I know that you have no frame of reference for how bad things are going to get. So, I'm aware of why you're not worried. I'm aware of why you're not, you shrug it off like, oh man, he's just talking. No, it's just because you don't know what's actually coming to you. If you had any inkling of what's coming to you for being an active agent of corruption, I swear to God, you would ditch everything that you have right now. I don't care how much you have in the world. You could be Jeff Bezos and fucking Bill Gates' love child that happened to inherit the fucking sum of both of their fortunes. If you knew what was coming to you for being that, you would abandon that path immediately and give yourself to trying to help create balance and achieve balance in the world. Again, this is all just a parasitic twin. This is all just a parasitic twin. It's a natural process. You know how that parasitic twin becomes a conjoined twin and you see one twin's body is mostly gone and it's been fused to another body? That's what's about to happen. Everything that's corrupt gets cut away, but all of the cellular building blocks that are corrupt, depending on the level of corruption within them and the level of the amount and types of negative impacts they've made on the body of the universes, dude, all that shit gets in. The ripple effects that they make, like even the conjoined twin, the ripple effects of the conjoined twin makes into the larger system. All of that shit keeps getting charged back to every cellular building block that assisted corruption in doing what it's doing. Reality doesn't make mistakes. And I'm saying this very matter-of-factly because I don't want you to sort of project meanings or ideals onto vocal inflection or any of those other things. I'm saying this very directly. You're in service to corruption. You're not just dealing with what's in front of you and what you're aware of and the way of the impacts you make on systems, it's a ripple effect. All that shit gets charged back to you. And dude, there are things so much worse in existence than pain. So much worse than pain. And you're going to know all of them. You have this brief period to make as many positive impacts on the world as you can towards restructuring your principle scaffold, your spirit, getting closer to reality and closer to balance. You have this brief opportunity. Because you know what? Once you're gone, first of all, I've already been to heaven, already been to the principal realm. So you don't have any memories of any of the stuff that you accomplished. When I was over there, when I was in heaven, dude, there's no memories. There's no mental barriers. There's no partitions. There are no barriers between anything. You just you're immersed within a state of understanding and experience, which is the reason why I'm able to speak as fluidly as I am able to on these subjects here and now. I'm always immersed in that state to a degree. But again, the reason why I mention that is because of all the shit you're doing to worship yourself and to add status and momentum to your identity right now. You're not going to remember any of it. There'll be no sense of accomplishment. I mean, granted, like if you make it to hell, then it's like, you might get some stripes. But hell's about to get destroyed anyway, because that's just the principal realm belonging to the parasitic twin. That's just a principal realm belonging to the parasitic twin. And since that's about to be done away with, so that these two universes can get fused to, there's going to be nowhere for you to go but the distortion. And in the distortion, even if you could remember all the negative, stupid shit you did, just worshiping yourself and being a narcissistic, competitive, greedy, aggressive little parasite, if you could remember all the stupid shit you did, you wouldn't be able to focus on it over the sheer excruciation of the experience. And you're going to be in there for, oh my God, it's going to seem like several eternities. And the worst part about it is, it's not something like in flesh, you got an equilibrium state. Like you can, with the amount of pain that you experience in flesh, more often than not, you can adjust to it, or at the worst, like unless it gets to something that's like really mechanically off. But I mean, like even with that, there are still pockets of your body, even when you're in absolute pain. There's still pockets of your body, of your being, that are not in excruciating pain. I want you to imagine like every cell in your body and bones was as hot as the brightest star in the goddamn like universe times a billion, and that you could experience all of it and that it wasn't going anywhere and that you couldn't get used to it. It's fucking awful. But that's what reality has to do in order to purge the corruption out of you. You can rid yourself of corruption. You can work to get it out of yourself. But if reality has to remove it for you, it's just like reality having to clean up your messes. If reality has to clean up your messes behind you, it charges you. It charges you. An exuberant, like an ungodly amount. Like it's just, it almost seems unfair. Like how much reality has to charge you in order to offset balance. But it's like, you got to understand reality as a system. So think about it like this. If reality has to restore imbalances that you created, balance to imbalances that you created, there are two things that get charged. It's like, one, it has to do all the repair work, which gets charged back to you. And then all the work that it had to, all the potential it had to use in order to do the work gets charged back to you. That's where the interest comes in. The interest alone. For all the ripple effects you've caused and created too. Are you fucking serious? You, like right now, your very best bet, humble yourself, man, like right now, think of the avatar as just a fucking tool. Use the tool to start reversing as much as you can, because, I mean, dude, it just gets bad. It just gets fucking bad. Like, ugh. Again, y'all are ignorant, so you can't think above the level of the competition. I'm gonna compete against him. That's what you expect a parasite to do. And the worst part about it is, if you try to compete against what the avatar is trying to perform through me, oh man, it multiplies what reality is going to do to you, because reality said very specifically, do not try to compete against this person. Competing against this thing that is hosting this individual who's hosting a function of me. It's trying to compete against, it's trying to dominate, it's trying to impose your will on, it's trying to transfer your rage directly into me. I know that you all are used to competing against each other, but if you try to transfer your rage into me, I'm going to fight you like I'm fighting corruption. I hit way harder than humans. Stand down. This poor little boy got dragged into a war based on pride, trying to make his parents proud and his community proud. He got dragged into making material impacts on reality that he may never have an opportunity to reverse. It's tragic. It's tragic. Ashbro comes in. Is the rage that people try to put into others, is that in itself our doing? How do we create rage or stop creating rage or get rid of rage that we already do have? Well, I always talk about this. You get rid of rage by, one, practicing reasoning and honesty. Again, it's just reasoning and honesty. That solves so many fucking problems. Reasoning and honesty solves so many problems. Okay, for instance, let me put that into context for you. So, let's say you're walking down the street and someone triggers you. They say something that pisses you off or makes you mad, and let's say that they didn't even maybe they didn't even say what you thought they said, but you're already heated and you're ready to go. So you sit here and you're gonna have a moment where you're like, oh man, I need to transfer my rage into them because they've offended me. And then you have a moment where you're kind of like honest with yourself, kind of like, is that really a reason to feel rage? Is that really a reason? Is someone saying something to me, is that really a reason to feel rage? And is maybe trying to transfer my rage into them the most constructive thing to do? Like, what makes me feel rage? What makes me feel rage about these things? And you start using reasoning to sort of dissect your life experience and getting into the what's and whys behind how you're triggered by certain things. And when you start sort of sourcing these emotional outbursts to direct experiences in your life wherein you either felt violated because you weren't powerful enough to protect yourself from danger, or you weren't powerful enough to capture something you felt you desired or needed in life. When you actually get to the root of what's happening behind those things, then all of a sudden that diminishes your desire to defend and promote your identity. The more you sort of diminish the desire to defend and promote your identity, is the less narcissistic you become. The less narcissistic you become is the less you compete for attention and authority. The less you compete for attention and authority is the less aggressive you are. It all starts with just being honest with yourself about when you're triggered, why you feel the need to compete, why you feel the need to protect and promote your identity. It all starts with reasoning and honesty. Hey, I'm triggered. Why am I triggered? This person makes me uncomfortable. I feel like they're getting more attention than me. Why am I afraid of them getting more attention than me? Who didn't give me enough attention when I felt I needed it most? Why am I taking up my issue with this person over here who I feel is stealing attention from me instead of really sitting down and facing what makes me be afraid of losing attention to begin with? You put it all into context and it flows. But you got to be honest, man. You got to be reasonable and honest. You can't do that when you're deflected. You can't do that when you're showing up competing. You can't do that when you're trying to make everything about you and circle everything back to promoting and defending the identity. It's like, no, but that's what we learn through the socialization process. We learn to promote ourselves and to defend our virtue and our value. And it makes it so that we become excellent liars to ourselves. We never want to accept the fact that what we're doing is wrong. We never want to accept the fact that we're even capable of doing wrong because everything is justifiable through intention. Everything is justifiable through self-idealizing. And that makes it so that we're expert liars to ourselves. Socialization process says, this is who you are. Reality is like, this is what you are. When you prioritize who you are over what you are, you lose sight of reality. You fall deeper and deeper into the spell of corruption. This is how it works at a mechanical level. You practice diminishing rage by confronting it with reasoning and honesty, not by blaming and deflecting to other people, not by shirking it and trying to protect and preserve and promote the identity over acknowledging why the rage is there and finding healthy ways to channel it out of you so that you can bring balance to the world around you. That's what honesty brings to you. Makes you a better person. And I'm speaking from personal experience here. I talk about how I used to be narcissistic a lot, but you know what? There's another term that they use. When I say I was a toxic nice guy, I was somewhat of a codependent. You know what I'm saying? And I found a sense of purpose in being a doormat to people because that meant that I was always the good guy. And I could always become the victim. And I could always be like, oh, they're not doing the best for me. And I'm always the good guy. But it was a very cowardly way to sort of protect and defend my identity. And in order to overcome it, you had to come face to face with it. Like, yo, no. I'm not doing this because it feels right. I'm doing this because I want to be the good guy. I want to be the good guy so that it's like, if it's not my fault, then, it's like, I'm never bad. And that used to make me very indecisive about a lot of things. It used to make me very, cowardly in general. It used to make me cowardly in general. And that doesn't go away until you step up. But the funny part about being cowardly is that when you're cowardly, when you're face to face and deal with reality, you're always going to shell up. You're always going to block out things that challenge your inner story and or your identity, the story you tell yourself about the world around you and your place and value within it. You're always going to try and block those things out and avoid them. And beyond that, you're going to, you're, oh man, I lost my thought there. It'll come back to me. But the main thing is, when you are cowardly, The main thing is when you're cowardly, you just don't want to face reality. You just don't want to be small. You don't want to take any hits to your identity. So you create these realms you can go into in which you are, these little bubbles you can go into in which you are impervious to blame. And it makes you indecisive. It makes you fear letting people down, so you don't take risks. You don't do any of the things you need to do in order to make things happen around you. And to the point that I was making before, you want you want other people to make decisions so that if something goes wrong, it's their fault. If something's not right, then it's their fault, and you're not to blame, right? Kind of like this little boy. Here he goes wanting to be a hero, never even learned how to be a man. Something went wrong, and someone else was to blame for him carrying an instrument of death into a conflict zone without a license and with the full intention of transferring rage into others, either through intimidation or direct confrontation. What humans say is right and wrong mean nothing to reality. Every person involved in this, from the instigator level all the way down, even on the opposing team of ideologues, you've made ripple effects in reality. Y'all are so focused on the game, you can't focus on reality, and reality doesn't give a shit about your stupid little games. It doesn't care what you call yourselves. It doesn't care about your identities. It doesn't care about shit. You made impacts on the system, and the system is like, yeah, you're going to pay for those. You're going to clean them up, or you're going to pay. Dumbass ideologues are like, no, competition over everything. Go team! Go team. Look at all the damage they've caused in the world, screaming, go team! You think this is free? Do you think any of this is free? You'll find out soon enough it isn't. Let me see. Yeah, we try to justify violence within or without, with ideas of it being a hero of justice, fairness, rightness, etc. Wrong for a wrong, imbalance for an imbalance. I think that's the mentality generally. Yeah, humans come up with these agreements they make with themselves that their sense of justice is what determines reality. Reality is like, man, are you fucking insane? Are you insane? But they're going to find out the hard way. All the fucking ideologue wants to do is compete. Anything for an opportunity to transfer rage into something. And all the messes and imbalances they create in reality just trying to satisfy this stupid addiction. An addiction that only causes them heartache. They will get charged back. Every imbalance will get charged back to perfect scale. Reality doesn't skip any. It doesn't weight things lightly. It doesn't skip any steps. It doesn't miss anything. Like humans counting things because we rely on perception. Yeah, we can miss things. We can miss things. Reality? Nah. Human justice is like... Human justice is like a beam balancing on a sphere, right? How that beam is balanced depends on the perceiver. Reality, balance is just a sphere. There is no teetering. There is no teetering. Reality doesn't miss anything. You could try and use a bunch of different planks to cover that sphere, in order to create your version of balance, but it'll still be justice because all those little nooks you couldn't fit around the sphere, why? There's empty spaces. Reality's balance is just a sphere. There are no missed spaces. Anything you do to create imbalance in reality gets charged back to you without fail. It is the perfect accountant. It is the perfect accountant. Yeah, you don't ever confuse your inner sense of justice with reality. I make it a point to never confuse my inner sense of justice with reality. To never. What I think is fair, right and wrong has absolutely nothing to do with how system reality works, which is ironically the reason why upon hitting enlightenment, if that's what you want to call it, I had to spend many, many moons getting worked over and just humbled, cleaned the fuck out, so that it's like I wouldn't bring my idea of justice or any personal beliefs or feelings into reading principles along with me. That's how it has to work. There's no room for my views and interpretations in the bodies of principles that I'm reading. There's no room for my sense of justice or my values or what I think is right and wrong into these principles. Reality as a system is reality as a system, regardless of whether or not it gels with what Donald King likes or doesn't like, how Donald King feels or would believe or doesn't feel or doesn't believe. Guys, we're at the end of the hour. I got some baking to do. I'm going to go ahead and sign off right here. Y'all already know what it is. This is Sorting and Sorting Principles with Donald King. I shoot these podcasts on Mondays and Wednesdays on Facebook Live. The goal of this podcast series is to help people learn how to understand principles of reality as differentiated from principles of viral, parasitic, and or social organization, right? Again, reality has its own system, and that is what we commonly refer to as nature. And then there's the viral parasitic offshoot, which is based in corruption. The purpose of an avatar and or the thing that I am and the entity that I host is to help translate these principles into English and or idealism-based languages. Because how reality would normally communicate to species via their faculties of intuition. Humans' faculties of intuitions have all but been eroded, and they can't hear reality speaking to them. So reality sends an agent to translate its principles into something that they can understand, so as to give them a fair chance to sync up with reality before it has to hit them with that whoop wop. You know what I'm saying? Again, I shoot these on Mondays and Wednesdays on Facebook Live. You can check out my Instagram. I'm Avatar Cycle XIII. That's Avatar Cycle 13. And also YouTube. I fly these videos over to my YouTube channel. And yes, I know I'm still very far behind on that. Just been super busy. Avatar work is no joke. It is work. This has been the hardest job I've ever done. I think I've done some hard jobs in my life. This is the hardest job I've ever done. And I've done it for the most part for free. Well, I've done it for free, but it's like, I've done this almost for the most part on my own dime. Recently, I've had some brothers step up and sisters step up and do some work to help me out. And it's like I would like to extend that same opportunity to all of you. If you get any sort of appreciation out of what I do, and you want to donate to this, which I strongly suggest, is not necessarily donating specifically to me. It goes to helping things get organized on this end, so I can really focus on that work. The more you do to help reality in that way, let's say, and I don't want to make any promises, but I mean, like, from what I've seen through the Avatar perspective, it works towards offsetting your negative debt to reality. So I strongly encourage you to help in whatever way you can this message get out there, or me to help me get organized so that it's like I can continue to put the message out there. But if you get any sort of appreciation out of what I do, you can always cash up your boy at Donnie Kang. That's DonnieKang. And then also you can join the Patreon family. I'm Avatar Cycle XIII. That's Avatar Cycle 13. Proceeds go to building this up to a larger platform and, you know, helping get things organized over here so I can really focus on this work. And yeah, I appreciate that. Also, I'm on Medium too. I post content to that platform more so these days, so you can check out that. I'm actually going to post a piece probably later on tonight anyway. But guys, let me go ahead and get out of here because I got some baking to do. Thanks for whoever tuned in. Brother Ashbro, thanks for the comments. And we'll be catching up with you guys sooner than later, all right? All right, you have a good night now. All right, bye.